Hello and welcome to this Stockbox interview with George Roach, the CEO of Premier African Minerals. Listed on the AIM market in London, the company is currently developing a portfolio of strategic metals located across Africa. So, hello George and welcome.
Yes, hi Mark, and nice to be chatting to you.
Yes, good to be chatting to you as well. And it's the first time that we've got you on Stockbox, so you're very welcome. And it looks like you've been busy over the last few weeks with the financing, and more importantly, the company is now debt-free. Now, from what I understand about Prem, many investors have perhaps a love-hate relationship with the company and perhaps look upon this move as, here we go again. So can you give us some background on this move and how it enables the company to move on from its somewhat checkered past?
Yes, indeed. I think that it's important just to note that in moving on as we are, Premier has been influenced dramatically over the last 2.5 to 3 years by adverse sentiment in regard to Zimbabwe. And our flagship projects historically were located in Zimbabwe. It's seen extensive dilution and a lot of erosion of value, a lot of erosion of shareholder value as we've gone forward. But at the same time, it's created another very significant asset for Premier, and that is that it is one of the most liquid AIM stocks on the AIM exchange. And that's quite something when it comes to AIM shares. You can trade in and out of this stock very easily without any difficulty at all. And the history will show you that that is where it is. So stepping back, country risk largely associated with the Zimbabwe has taken us to a point where we need to find another way and have a new beginning, as it were. So what we plan to do is to look to dispose of the Zimbabwean assets for the benefit of Prem shareholders. So it's not that I don't recognize significant value in them, because there is. And I'll come on to that a little bit later. There's a lot of value in the Zimbabwe assets, but with country risk sentiment as it is at the moment, it's holding Prem back. So Prem's new direction is going to accomplish two things. The first is that we need to become cash generative, and our recent foray into manganese in Namibia, into the Ochazondo mine, where we hold a 19% interest at this point in time, is a step in that direction. And then the recent placing, the ability to convert out and liquidate our debt and put us in a position where we have cash in the bank and we are now a debt-free company. This is going to allow us to look at some of the other very good opportunities that exist in other parts of Africa. And obviously gold is topical. Gold is high up on that agenda. So that's basically what we're looking to do. We're looking to crystallize the Zimbabwean assets for the benefit of shareholders, good value there, we believe, and at the same time put us in a position to hopefully move ahead with further involvement with Ochazondo mine, very much a work in progress, lots of negotiation to be done there still, and then to go out and acquire some high value, highly prospective gold assets in other parts of, gold exploration assets, that is, in other parts of Africa.
Okay, well, that's a good summary of what's going on. And moving into gold, yes, as you say, very, very topical. So how do you feel then going down this new route?
Well, I feel a lot more bullish than I have been for some time. Okay. I mean, and I've said this that Prem went through a period of nearly 3 years of almost shrink mode, where undertakings were given, contracts were signed and agreed, a new way was found, or we thought we'd found a new way of dealing with our RHA tungsten mine in Zimbabwe, and it just hasn't come to fruition. Similarly, we've been waiting for nearly 2 years now for the grant of an exclusive prospecting order that would extend our Zulu lithium and tantalum exploration area, we believe it's a great asset. We believe that adding to the area on strike and so on just adds a new dimension to it. And without detracting from what we have with Zulu, the fact that the EPO hasn't been granted, despite all the processes and procedures we've been through, just adds to country risk and country uncertainty. And it's that country risk and uncertainty that we need to move away from. That's been the shrink part of PREM. And the expansion and development part of PREM starts now, looking to the cash generative assets, looking to high value gold related exploration in other parts of Africa, and being put in a position where we're debt free and with some money in the bank.
Okay. Well, that's a very definitive move, yeah, which you've spelt out quite clearly there. So let's take a look at the current projects in PREM, starting with the Ochazondu manganese mine in Namibia. What can you tell us about that? What stage is it at, and where's it going?
Sure. Ochazondu is in a big manganese district in Namibia. The tenements under license and under exploration license that Ochazondu holds cover the better part of 140 kilometers of strike. The area has a long history of successful manganese mining, and Ochazondu is in production and is producing and exporting and is generating revenue at this moment in time. Ochazondu is somewhat hamstrung by the COVID situation that we are pretty well all facing at the moment. And their difficulties really come down to logistical and transport difficulties in country, and all of it stemming one way or another into this COVID situation. So Ochazondu's installed plant at the moment is operating at around about 30% of availability, and they're shipping of the order of 4,000 to 5,000 tons a month of manganese. And 30% availability, you can see where the upside lies there, and that's just in the existing plant. And that's only mining out of the existing pit that they're operating. So the upside of this thing is significant. There's a lot of development work to be done, new pits to be brought on board, upgrading of resources that can be done, additional plant and equipment that can be installed, new logistics routes that need to be planned and found. And all of this adds up to opportunity. So it was that we recognized when we acquired the initial stake that we have at the moment. And hopefully with a further involvement, if we're able to secure and agree how we take this thing forward with Ochazondu, PREM will be able to give a lot more input and to be able to drive and guide a significant increase in tonnages, in profitability, and so on.
Okay, so let's take a look at the Zimbabwean assets now, and you've said previously that you're looking to perhaps distance a little bit away from them. So you've got the Zulu lithium and tantalum project and the RHA tungsten project. So again, what's the story with them at the moment and where they're going?
Okay, so let's have a look at RHA tungsten first. RHA is a fully developed mine. There's a full-blown commissioned plant sitting at RHA. That plant is, the depreciated value in our books at the moment is around about 1.8 million US. The plant obviously cost us a lot more going back in time. We own that plant 100%, and the plant is where it is, and title to the plant is retained by our subsidiary. The tenements and the actual mine is operated by a Zimbabwean company, which is RHA Tungsten Private Limited. Now, the difficulty lies in that RHA Tungsten Private Limited was an indigenized company, and the state, through the National Indigenization and Economic Empowerment Fund, retains a 51% interest in the company. Yet the state has not made any significant contribution beyond putting in a little over $1 million in RTGS bond over the last 18 odd months. Now, the RTGS bond unofficial rate to the dollar, in fact, I don't even want to quote a number, but it's probably close to 30, maybe a bit more. The unofficial rate is a different story altogether. The NEEF, the Indigenization Economic Empowerment Fund, is contractually bound to have contributed 6 million United States dollars to this project, which they simply haven't done. Premier's contribution has been to fund an entire plant that is under a plant rental contract installed at RHA and available for use by the mining company. The mining company hasn't paid any of their rentals on the plant rental contract. They're in default on that. And there is some reconfiguration of the plant that I think is necessary at the moment. There've been major moves in tungsten pricing from the time we first conceived RHA to today. And there is some optimization that we can do on the plant. And there are a number of off-takers, including our actual signed and committed off-taker at the moment, who are all wanting to put money in to bring this mine back into production. But the difficulty with it is that they expect that Premier will underwrite whatever their commitment is to bring the mine back into production. And on the basis that Premier is a minority holder within the mining company, this just doesn't make sense today. So unfortunately, until NEEF either changes the equity, agrees to a dilution policy, or we find another way of dealing with it, RHA, despite the fact that it should come back into production, isn't.
Okay.
So, that's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation at the moment, and it is hugely negative sentiment-wise as far as we are concerned.
Okay. And the Zulu project?
Well, the Zulu project is primarily a hard rock spodumene project. We have described a resource of over 20 million tons, and I think it's 1.06%. We've had test work done. Test work was done by Anzaplan in Germany. The results of the test work were exceptionally good. The recoveries of lithium in the spodumene is very good indeed. The quality of the minerals, the very low iron content, and various other things associated with Zulu make it potentially an outstanding spodumene, hard rock spodumene deposit. There is some tantalum. It's discrete from the main mineralization, but it's there, and some of it is alluvial and scattered within the area, but is recoverable and would be a good revenue contributor and a byproduct to a future operation at Zulu. But once again, the next commitment at Zulu is a commitment of around about $5 million US to upgrade all the drilling, to expand the size of the resource, to complete a full-blown feasibility study, and a fair amount of additional work as well. And the funding of that, again with country risk, and particularly with this delay in granting the EPO, is unlikely right now.
Okay, so they are both good projects, but the plan for both of them was it to put them into a different vehicle and sort of just leave them alone, or what's going to happen?
Well, let me in answering that, let me just add that they aren't the only projects that we have in Zimbabwe. We also have a carbonatite that has good rare earth potential. We have another area where that was historically mined for fluorspar. Okay. And we have a huge number of other claims covering other potential lithium and tantalum exploration areas in Zimbabwe. So it's a big package of property. And I think that that's the right thing to do. I think that they belong in their own entity. They deserve a proper almost rebirth, as it were.
Hmm.
I believe that they will develop into mines, and I believe they will be very good and very, very valuable properties. So moving them aside a little, but retaining value in a way that is still a work in progress for Prem is what we're trying to do at the moment.
Okay, okay. And finally, the other project in Mozambique, the Alto Ligonha Gold Project. What can you tell us about that one?
Well, it's early days, and it's the
Okay.
tenement that we have at the moment is relatively small, but it is a huge artisanal exploration mining area. Um, I've seen a lot of artisanal works in parts of Africa, and this one sits right up there with some of the busiest. Some of the local mining that's taken place there historically, guys have dug down 30 meters. You can climb down into some of these workings. There's visible gold there. Um, but we're also looking to extend the tenement area. We've identified some additional nearby areas, and we're busy working with that. So I'm hoping to be able to add to the tenement size. And with the funds that we've raised at the moment, a small amount of that is going to be directed to putting in proper exploration programs over that Mozambican property. And let's see what we can do with it. It looks very interesting, but I really don't know how big or small this thing is eventually going to be, other than to say it's very nice to see visible gold and so many other people who think it's a great place to go and do their artisanal mining.
Okay, okay. And the company also has an investment in Circum Minerals Limited, which is a privately owned company developing 100% owned Danakil potash project located in the Danakil Depression of Ethiopia. So again, finally on this one, can you advise what stage this project is at and what the roadmap looks like?
Well, Prem's interest is probably around about 5%, maybe slightly less than
Hmm.
that, but it's valued at very close to our market capitalization at the moment. The project is beyond feasibility study. The original feasibility study that was done, it was done on a very large scale project and came in with an NPV of over 2 billion. Now, the market, the capital required to develop that project, I think, was a little too high, and I think maybe just a reach too far. So the board of Circum at the moment is revising the definitive feasibility study. They are looking to significantly cut the capital, cut the lead time, probably improve the IRR along the way, and bring in some additional, more advanced technology. Now, that is a work in progress at the moment, and I think that they're getting fairly close to getting this thing finished. I think they were anticipating a preliminary report around about now. Whether what I'm repeating now, which is verbally given to me by people in Circum, is the preliminary report, we'll just have to wait and see.
Hmm.
I've asked them to give us something more definitive and to publish something as well. So the project is is potash. The Danakil has a fantastic deposit. The size of this mining tenement is huge, and the long-term future of it, I think, is very good. I think prices are looking reasonable. They're a very low-cost producer, and they have a very good comparable in the Danakali operation, which is literally on the other side of the border. And you consider that their project is significantly smaller than Circum, and I think the Eritrean government probably owns 50% of it, or thereabouts. It'll give one an idea of the value that we can associate with Circum, and why we feel quite bullish about Circum, that there should be a moving on of that, a development and or possibly a liquidity event or something similar in the fairly near future.
Okay, well, Thank you, George, for that. That's a very good good synopsis of the company and where it's at. And finally, I just want to touch on something that I noted from the RNS, which is it looks like perhaps the company is looking for further opportunities. And you said earlier on that was the case, and you've also said you're very bullish on this fresh start. You put your legacy assets that have been weighing the company down in the past to one side. So could you expand on potentially what these new opportunities may be?
Difficult because I can't go into too much detail on properties that are under negotiation at the moment. Suffice it to say that the target is high value gold exploration in preferably the West African situation.
Okay.
But high value gold assets, it's not only in that region, there are others that we're looking at. And from a lot of my background going through so many of these African countries over so many years, there are always opportunities that become available. Exploration areas that have been taken, some work done, then not fully developed because of whatever the market forces might be at the time. There are many of these situations that do arise. So I'm not bound by one particular opportunity or one particular area. I hope that I'm bound by quality of the opportunity.
Okay, well, thank you very much, George Roach, CEO of Premier African Minerals, for your time.
Pleasure indeed. That's a pleasure indeed. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.